Hello, my name is Linda Tesler. I have worked for 5 years to come to this moment to be able to send you this material. Oprah, as you suggested, I've been living my wildest dream. Now, my dream is to empower others. And I need a little help. I think you're going to understand more if I tell you a little bit about myself. I was one of those children that for some unknown reason, I just didn't learn to read. No matter how hard I worked, no matter how carefully I did my homework, I was just placed farther and farther and farther back in the reading groups. Education was very important to my family. And my grandfather, who was a very wise man, said to me that he knew something was wrong. He didn't really understand that I was smart in my own ways. But in school, if I would be a good girl and just listen, that at least I'd learn enough to at least pass. And Pop-Up Charlie's philosophy worked for a while. Until one day in 4th grade, we came back from lunch. The teacher had put all of the worksheets on at everyone's desk to sit down and work. I, like the rest of my classmates, sat down and I looked down at the paper. And I realized that not only could I not do this work, I couldn't read the paper. There were so many words on this paper. Out of frustration and anger, I picked up my pencil and I scraped across the paper as hard as I could. So hard that the paper ripped, and I flattened it out really quickly. Because I had always tried to be a good girl. And I couldn't believe I had done that. When it was time, I handed my paper in. And I was afraid to go to school the next day. I didn't know what would happen. But to my surprise, nothing happened. Nobody said anything. I had a secret. I couldn't read. And my last hope were the teachers to help me. And then I knew that this silent, private struggle would be mine to live with. I had a really strange habit in those days. I went to the public library religiously. I took a long time to pick out which books that I would take home, even though I knew I could never read them. And I'd take them home and I'd put them on my desk. I loved the smell. I loved the feel of the books. I loved when you opened the covers and how it crackled. And they sat on my desk. And I just tried to imagine what was inside of them. And if only I would have access to know the words that were in these books. When it was time to go to high school, nobody would take me except an X-ray technology school, where I flunked out in 1 month. You don't do very well in this world if you can't read. Oprah, my story is not what is important. What is important is how common my story is. We are talking about 15 to 20% of the population struggle with learning disabilities, and most of them are dyslexic. That number doesn't even take into account the parents that are trying to raise these children, the teachers that are trying to teach them, and as they grow up, the spouses that are not understanding their behavior, employers that are confused. Most learning disabled people do exactly what I did. They don't tell anybody. They go into hiding. A lot of the teenagers medicate themselves with drugs, and far, far too many end up in our penal institutions. Approximately 40%. Learning disabilities runs across the board equally to race, to socioeconomic class, to culture, to religion. People struggle that really can be helped. Despite my history, I proudly am before you as Dr. Linda Tesler. I accomplished everything that I was told I couldn't do through my education system. And when I earned my doctorate, I was also a member of the Phi Kappa Phi Honorary Society. Okay. Finally, at 32 years of age, I took myself to be tested. My reading tested on a 3rd grade level at 32. And I was diagnosed as being severely dyslexic. But a wonderful thing also happened. I found out that I could receive textbooks on tape from Recording for the Blind and Dyslexic. And that made all the difference in the world. So you see, for the past 5 years, Oprah, I have been writing one word at a time, which is the title of my book, One Word at a Time, a roadmap to navigate through dyslexia and other learning disabilities. Renowned researcher Sally Shaywitz from Yale says that the greatest reason people with dyslexia are not reaching their potential is simply lack of knowledge. So you see, I know that if I could take my personal experience of being a dyslexic reader and being the mother of a dyslexic son and combine it with my professional experience of working as a clinical psychologist for 25 years in the field and having done research on how do people not only survive a learning disability, but thrive. And if I could combine those two things and put them into a simple, easy to read book, that I would have an affordable vehicle to empower others that are struggling with learning, because there are answers. People just need to know where to find them. I am proud to tell you that One Word at a Time has been so appreciated by the professional community. Many of our most prominent professionals have touted it as a must-read. The 2 most respected nonprofits in our country on learning disabilities have featured One Word at a Time on their homepage on the computer. I'm very honored because this simply doesn't happen.